Hi, and welcome to the first video for Chapter 12. In this video, or in this chapter, we're going to be dealing with, for the first time, persistent storage. That is a way of keeping information in an iPhone app between each time it's invoked. So what the mechanism described in this chapter, settings or preferences handles, is information that has to do with how the app would run, sort of your normal understanding of the settings for an app. Things like, do you want the measurements displayed in miles or kilometers? Do you want maybe if there's an account associated with the app to make a network connection, then username and password for that account, these kinds of things. You actually store anything you like in them. That's just sort of a general convention. The advantage of the settings over the other mechanisms, which we'll discuss for Chapter 13, is that they can be modified outside the app, actually. There are restrictions on the data types of the information you can store, and those restrictions make it possible for all the settings you want to set to be changed from within the settings app, not the app itself. And let me go ahead and demo what I'm talking about. Hopefully that'll make it clear what I mean in terms of being able to change things either from the settings app or the app itself. And then we'll go ahead and write the app. So this app is sort of a silly app. The point of it is to store information about a starship in the Star Trek universe. So who's the captain, whether or not the warp engines are turned on, the warp speed that you're traveling at, and those sorts of things, a secret authorization code, and so forth. Here the app has fired up and it's showing these are the settings as they're currently stored. There's another screen here which we'll come back to where you can change the settings. So here you can see, sort of bizarre, but the warp drive is disabled, and yet we're going at warp factor 3.08, or maybe that would be what the throttle setting would be if they were turned on. So let's turn them on, crank up the speed a little bit, go back to the app here, and you can see warp drive is engaged and the warp factor is there. Now we'll exit the app and then go back into it and see that those settings are still there. It didn't restart the app. I'm looking to, okay, so now we'll go into the settings app and I'll show you what I'm talking about in terms of being able to change it from there. The settings app has lots of entries. This is a table view for the built-in apps, but there are also settings for apps which you've developed if you specified them in a way that the settings app can tell that they have settings that should be changeable. So you can see we've run a lot of apps over the course of the term on this iPhone simulator, but the only one that shows up is this one, Bridge Control Test, that goes with this particular project. It has a settings entry and nothing else does. We'll talk about why that is in a little bit. Let's run it. And all those settings you can see that we could change there in the app, or that we couldn't change, that we could view. We can change in here. There's a place where you can enter just a string. There's something like a password where it's called a secure setting. We can do a pull down list where we set the rank of the commanding officer. Just like in the app, we can turn the warp drive on and off. We can change the warp factor. We'll speed it up a little more and we'll turn it off just so we can review that those actually show up in the screen. And here we get to set some other things. We've got a pull down list there. We can change a string here. change the kind of T. And all these will be saved when we exit the settings app and we go back into the app itself. You can see those changes are reflected, and they're reflected here as well. Let's turn the warp drive back on and go back, see that it changed. And that's pretty much what we can do. We've got so the application in terms of its structure is a tab view application. We'll use that design pattern when we create it from a template in the wizard. And we've set it up so that it has a settings page which can be managed from the settings app separately from the app itself. So let's go ahead and see how that works. So we'll stop the simulation and we're going to create a new project. And we're going to make it a tabbed app, which gives us the navigation controller and the two view controllers for free. That'll be a nice thing to get. And you can see here we've got the storyboard with the two, the tab bar controller. I said navigation controller a minute ago. That was my mistake. I meant tab bar controller. We're not going to use these, so just while I'm in here, I'm going to delete these labels in the two view controllers. You see we also have files for the first view controller, second view controller, and the launch screen. I want to change these icons that I've got up here for the first and second from a circle and a square to being the numbers 1 and 2. I'll go ahead and do that while I'm in here. And we do it in just the standard way. We're going to copy a couple of icons into the XC Assets folder. The double icon will be for the second one, and the single icon for the first one. We've got them as sets of images so we can handle multiple resolutions. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to need them later on, so I'm going to just save myself the trouble. Oh, wait, I'm putting these in the wrong place. Never mind. The rabbit and the turtle have to go somewhere else, but we'll deal with that in a little bit. So let me go back to my storyboard and change those icons now. And I'll do it in the attributes inspector for the two view controllers. Okay, we've got that changed. What we're going to do then now is actually add the feature to the project that enables the settings app to work with it, and that's called adding a settings bundle. And each app can only have one. It's we're going to and the fact that it's there is how iOS knows that the settings app should handle this app in terms of displaying its info. So we'll create a new file, and we're in iOS. We're going to scroll through these things down until we get to the settings bundle, and we're going to add that to our you've got to you can't change the name. It's got to be exactly as it is, settings.bundle. And a bundle is an iOS file type, which basically, well, a bundle can be all kinds of things. This bundle mainly has in it a plist. There's a file, this en.lproj, that has to do with localization of the app in national languages. We're not going to deal with that for a minute. Well, actually, we're never going to deal with it. Then the other thing in here is a plist. It's named root.plist. It has to be named root.plist, and it's going to show the preference items as a series of dictionary entries. And you can see that it's structured. It's a dictionary named whose key is iPhone settings schema. It has to be set that way. And there has to be a strings file name called root here. We're not going to, again, fool with that piece. Again, it has to do with national languages. But then we have this list of preference items. The first one is a separator. It's you can group items, separate the list of preferences in the settings app into groups, and then you can have the items that go in that group. We're going to change. So let me just and you can see that each of these items is a dictionary. I'll open it. That has a type and a title. We're going to change the title of this one, but before I do that, I need to sort of change how things are displayed here. And I'm going to go over somewhere into the plist screen and control click, and I'm going to click this thing, show raw key values. And the book author does this, and I'm going to do it just to maintain consistency with the book author. It shows the raw type information for each entry in the phone settings. I think that's the PS stands for there. And these are the actual type name identifiers in iOS, but they're a little less than intuitive maybe, but the book author seems to want to just see them exactly as they are, so we're going to do that as well. Now we want to change the title here. We're going to call this one General Info. So click over here in the Value field and put General Info. Everything in a dictionary is a key value pair. The preferences specifiers, again, is an array of entries. These other three I'm just going to delete. So I'll put my cursor on one, select it, and just hit the delete button to get rid of those other three. I'm going to add more later. And the way you add more, I'll close an item, click on it to select it. And you'll add another item at the same level of indentation. So in this case, another entry in the array named preference specifier. If I had this open and clicked on it open, it's going to add another entry to the children of this. So I don't want to do that. So I'll close that again, and I'm going to add, let's see, a second item here for the commanding officer preference. Well, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just hitting enter, and it adds another item to the preference specifiers, and I get to specify what I want it to be. I want this one to be a text field, indeed, because it's going to be the commanding officer's name. So I'll set that to be the title of it. And the key is how I'm going to reference it in code. You've got to have a way to get at the preferences, and you use strings to get at them. So the key for this item is I'm going to make lowercase officer. And I'm going to add a couple more. I want it to auto-capitalize and auto-correct this field. So I'm going to add a couple more fields to do that. So I'll click here. Auto-capitalization type. I want to be words. And I'll click it again and get an auto-correction type. And since names are sort of weird in spelling, I don't want to do that, so I'll select no for the auto-correction type. So what I've done here, I've renamed the first group of preferences. I've deleted those template preferences that were in here, and I've added another preference, which is a text field, key of officer, title commanding officer, with auto-capitalization correct for words and no auto-correction. Let's run the app. The actual app isn't going to do anything. It's just got the two tabs, and I can tab back and forth between them, but they'll be blank and nothing can happen. So I haven't coded anything there. But what I ought to be able to do is go into the settings for this app and and see what's there. So let's run it. And here the app is running, and like I said, 2 blank tabs, nothing going on. We'll go back to the Settings app, and there's now an entry for this app. The demo version I had was named Bridge Control Test. Bridge Control is the one we're writing right now. And you can see there's just one. The first type is called General Info. The first group is called that, and there's a commanding officer field. It's not set to anything. We'll put in a commanding officer, and that works. We can go back into the settings and look at it. We can't go back into the app and look at it yet because we haven't coded the app to do that. But that's working. So you see sort of the principle. What we're going to do to add fields in the Settings app and accessible in the app itself will be to add entries to this particular plist in the settings bundle, which we added to the files for the project. Because there's a settings bundle there, the Settings app knows to create an entry for the app and display, and it knows how to display code to change each of those settings because it knows the type of the setting. It knows that this is a text field, so it puts up a text field to edit that string. And like I said, there's a way we'll be able to access that string from within the app, either to change it within the app or to just use it. So we'll do that in the next video.